It's a feeling like you got the defense at your mercy. And when I make that shot, it's deflating.
Logo Lillard at his finest.
Oh my goodness. This shot by
I think I shoot that deep ball as good as anybody.
Dame time. Let's go. Big time players make big time plays in big time moments. That is Damian Lillard. He's the Blazers franchise leader in 50-point games and three-pointers. Dame's 12 50-point games are tied with LeBron for the 7th most in NBA history. And as far as points and minutes, only Hall of Famer Clyde Drexler has more in Portland's franchise history. Here's Lillard on his future in Portland.
We're in the playoffs every year. We got a great environment. We in a great city. You know, we have great fans. It's a lot of positives, you know, but I just think we've reached that point where it's like, okay, but it's not enough. Do we actually want to win it all? Right now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. What I can say is my intentions and my heart has always been set on being in the Trailblazers uniform for my entire career. But I think you know, over time you want to win it all. You know what I'm saying? And I want to win it all in a Trailblazers uniform. But we all have to be making strides toward that.
Dame transparent there in that interview, Stephen A. What should the Blazers do with Lillard?
Well, they should trade him. Me personally, I think they should trade him because I think that he is a superstar. I don't think his stock has ever been higher. And I don't think the Blazers have ever been in a position to get as much as they could for him at this particular moment in time. Now, I will openly confess to you that I am incredibly biased. There is no player that I have wanted in New York more than Damian Lillard. I'm talking about a closer. I'm talking about a sniper and a marksman extraordinaire. I'm talking about a guy that has the swag that is made for New York City. Now, in face value, it doesn't look like they would have the assets for him. Obviously, with Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett as the cornerstones of your franchise, what do you have to offer? I would remind everybody that the New York Knicks are expected to have in excess of $70 million in cap space. Okay, they can absorb his salary. I would give them anything they wanted. I would give them Barrett. I would give them Randall. I would give them Obi Toppin. I would give them Mitchell Robinson. I would give them Emmanuel Quickley. I would give them not one, not two, but 3 first-round picks. I would give the Portland Trailblazers all that in a bag of chips just to get Damian Lillard in New York City. That's how badly I would want him if I am the New York Knicks. And for those that think that Damian Lillard wouldn't ever want to be a New York Knick, I'm here to tell you he'd rather be a New York Knick than a Los Angeles Laker. He'd rather be in the New York market than the LA market. He ain't interested in joining no super team. And more importantly than that, you know, his mentality would likely be, I could get dudes to come and play with me if I were in New York City. But there are other options. Dallas has to move Porzingis. You could put him in Dallas with Luka Doncic, if at all possible. There are a plethora of other options, and I understand that. I'm just talking about what my preference would be because I haven't spoken to him about this at this particular moment in time. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. If you are the Portland Trailblazers, you've had him and C.J. McCollum together for years. I've got a lot of love for C.J. McCollum. I think that he's a big-time baller, but I have told him and Damian Lillard to their face over the years, which they both would confirm to anybody who asked, that I don't believe those two should remain together. I think they've had their chance. I think that, unfortunately, with what both of them bring to the table, they're an elite backcourt max who could score on anybody. But defensively, it could be a liability, et cetera, et cetera. So I think I would trade one of them to use them to get the assets necessary to pair with the other. I've been on the record, Max. I wouldn't want, Damian Lillard. I'm sorry, not Damian Lillard. Ben Simmons going there. I would love for Philly to get their hands on Damian Lillard, but I'm not sure Ben Simmons would work in Portland. I have been on the record, Max. I've stated this publicly. I would even consider trading Anthony Davis from the Los Angeles Lakers to get Damian Lillard with LeBron James, because this season, Anthony Davis missed more games, or just as many games, as Damian Lillard missed his entire career. I would actually consider that if I were Portland and I were the Los Angeles Lakers.
Good luck selling Portland to AD.
Here's the thing. Portland's in the Pacific Northwest. It's tucked away. The games start late. It's not a huge cosmopolitan area. It's not a warm weather state, and it's not a no-income tax state. No one's going to want to play there. That's the problem. Free agents are looking for warm weather, no-income tax states, and of course they're looking for great teams. If Portland had an amazing team, that would be different, but truly juggernaut-type teams. Or they're looking for major cosmopolitan areas where they feel like they can broadcast their brand and become global icons in a way to set them up to be billionaires, None of that's Portland. So as long as Damian Lillard's in Portland, he's stuck in neutral. We've seen that. But one of the reasons for that is, as great as he is, Stephen A., you keep talking about shorter players. I agree with you about it, by the way. I just think, well, that's basketball. If you're shorter, it counts against you. It's almost never has a player under 6'4" been the best player on a championship team. And when they have, Steph Curry in 2015, there's always a reason for it. The other team had major injuries, something like that. So Lillard is, at best, probably the second best player on a championship team. The problem is he's a top dozen player. There aren't that many guys as good as him. So when I brought up Philadelphia the other day, Stephen A., it's because Embiid, there's a guy. Embiid and Lillard, maybe you can win a championship. Maybe. Things have to still go right. You can't get injured. You need help. And you have to hope that Brooklyn doesn't just stay healthy. But maybe. Otherwise, how many guys are there? LeBron, you bring up the Lakers, you're right. Kawhi, KD, but, they're already set, it looks like, over there. Giannis, but he's pretty well set up. There aren't that many guys. Luka, you brought up. Harden is with KD. Jokic. If Lillard went to a place like Denver and they held on to Jokic and Murray, there you go. But that's how hard it is to win a championship in a normal season. This is not a normal season with all the injuries. The Knicks, if they traded everything they had for him, Stephen A., he'd be in the same position he is in Portland, except that he would be able to sell New York to other superstars. But that's what he would have to do. Maybe a young guy on his way up who hits the market, there are guys like obviously Zion and Ja, or guys who are more advanced like Tatum or Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker or someone like that. But that's what it would take. Lillard plus another dude at least as good as him, if not better, and the right situation. And then maybe you win a championship. It ain't easy.
Well, listen, it's going to be easier in the East than it is in the West. That's number one. Number two, unlike Portland, as you articulated, in New York and other places, he'd be able to attract people to want to come and play with him. Because I think that if he were in the right market, you'd see people clamoring to play with Damian Lillard. Make no mistake about that. So we can't ignore that. And I think that ultimately, if you're the Portland Trailblazers, you got to ask yourself what you're trying to do here. Are you trying to be respectable enough where you have a superstar that in a local market is so attractive that people are going to come out and clamor to see you, but you don't necessarily position yourself to compete for a championship since you've been bounced out in the first round 4 times in the last 5 years? Or do you reach the conclusion that I think is somewhat obvious, that C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard together don't work on a championship level? They'll work to win you games, to be competitive, et cetera, but both of them deserve, Damian Lillard more so than C.J. McCollum, but both of them deserve to be the face of their respective franchises, or for you to at least make a deal that would complement their styles of play even more so. When I bring up an Anthony Davis, why? Because if you're the Portland Trailblazers, everything else you have on the perimeter, with the acquisition of Powell coming to that team, with Covington still on that team, with Carmelo Anthony still on that team, with C.J. McCollum there as well, along with some other cats, some of the young cats that they've got. You get a true big to join Nurkic, you could make some noise. You're Damian Lillard. If you go to a different place where you've got a superstar like a LeBron James, but you're complimenting him, you could do some things. If you go to New York, you can attract dudes to that bigger market to compete with KD, Kyrie, and James Harden in Brooklyn. Damian Lillard would be plastered all over Broadway with the kind of game that he has and what he brings to the table. He'd be the marketing attraction in the city of New York without question. These are the kind of things I think he should think about. And Portland should think about it to make sure they get as much for him as possible.
Kyrie for Damian Lillard straight up?
Say what?
Kyrie for Damian Lillard straight up?
Kyrie?
Yep.
Well, if I'm Portland, I would never do that. I couldn't rely on Kyrie.
But if you're Brooklyn?
I thought you were talking about the New York Knicks when you.
I'm talking about the New York Knicks.
Of course you are.
I ain't thinking about no damn Brooklyn
who
Nets.
has the stuff to go get them. You have to bring it to get it. I don't know what the Knicks give up to go get Damian Lillard.
I just told you. I give him everything plus the 3 first-round picks.
I guess.
Max wants the super team. All right, Dame has the most points in clutch time, 162 this season. He's unreal. When we come back, the Bucks have